Okay, so what we're going to do is develop some ratios that go with these usual suspects. These angles here, 30, 45, 60, those are going to be the usual suspects. And then, of course, you'll have your 0 and 90 as well. They will relate to the 180, the 270. Okay, so every quadrant we're going to chunk it up using these reference angles. So these are all the reference angles that we want to use. There's just a little bit of inspiration at the beginning. I usually skip investigations, but otherwise if we don't just take a look at these, you won't have any clue where these values come from. I remember talking to you guys about Pythagoras and how he committed suicide over the irrationality of a number. This is the triangle that he couldn't wrap his mind around. He didn't understand this. Because what's 1 squared? And another 1 squared is 1. You add it up, you get 2. So the value of this hypotenuse is root 2, and he couldn't handle that. So I guess he walked the plank. Right? So when we go to develop our formulas for 45, and 45 is such a nice one that we're going to talk about it lots. What's going to be the ratios for sine and cos? It's going to be the opposite over the hype and the adjacent over the hype. So they're both going to be 1 over root 2, 1 over root 2. And the reason that they're the same, think about this. If this angle down in the corner is 45 and this one's 90, what does that top corner have to be? Also 45. So what type of triangle is this? Right angled for sure, but what else? When two sides are the same. Isosceles. Okay, so if those two sides are the same, those two angles are the same, and this ratio, which is x over r and y over r, x and y are the same, so you're going to have the same ratio. Please go ahead and rationalize those for me. So rationalizing root 2 over root 2, root 2 over root 2. So you get in black ink root 2 over 2 for both. Okay, do you guys see root 2 over 2 on your unit circle that I handed out? Do you see it at the 45? Do you see it at the 45? Okay, now go to the other quadrants where the reference angle is 45. So 135, do you see it? And do you see how just the signs have changed? Now down in the third quadrant, this 225 in the middle there, same ratios but different sign. And then finally the same thing's happening in the fourth quadrant. Okay, and then for last but not least, tan. Tan is y over x, so 1 over 1, which is just 1. Okay, so right now if you guys went and put tan 45 in your calculator, you should get 1. The other thing that I'll show you how the calculator can help you with this. So just make sure I'm in degree mode. I am. So I'll go sine 45, and then I'll go square root of 2 divided by 2. See how it's the same? And before we rationalized, it was 1 divided by root 2. Okay, it's also the same. They're all equivalent. Okay, see how that works? Now, remember, in trig, the sine of an angle is equal to a ratio of sides. See that equivalence? Okay. And we don't typically want to have the radical in the denominator, so we're going to rationalize. We like this one in the middle there, root 2 over 2. Okay, so have rational denominators. And I apologize, I'm a little bit sick, so that's why I might not seem too into it today. Okay, let's go to the next one. And this is going to be the 30, 60, 90 triangle. So this thing, okay, up at the top, you have special triangles. Okay, why are they special? Well, I don't know, 30, 60, 45. They're just the nice ones. Okay, so what they're going to do is they're going to label the hypotenuse 2. And they're going to say it's equilateral. So if it's equilateral, I think it says that over here somewhere. Yeah, equilateral. Okay. So if it's equilateral, this is 60, this is 60, This is 2, and this is 2. This is an equilateral. You know, equilateral means all the sides are the same and all the angles are the same, and the only way that can happen is if it's 60, 60, 60. So I guess that's why it's like special, I guess. So it's equilateral. So then if the hypotenuse is 2, they're going to draw a perpendicular bisector here. A perpendicular bisector, of course, is perpendicular at 90 down here. And it bisects. So this distance here would be 1. Okay, so that distance there is 1 because it cuts the 2 in half. The 2 is the whole distance across. So now use the Pythagorean theorem to get this height. So 2 squared, it's a short side, so we'll subtract 2 squared minus 1 squared, you get root 3. So this guy here is root 3. Okay, and up above in the top of this triangle, you saw that we bisected. So it also bisects the angle. So up here, 30, very nice. Okay, so now we can develop the formulas for the 30, 60. Okay. So using this triangle, what's the sine of 60? That would be the opposite over the hypotenuse, the y over the r. So it is root 3 over 2. And the cos of 60 will be the adjacent. So that's going to be this adjacent 1 over the hypotenuse 2. So x over r, 1 over 2. And then tangent of 60 is the y over the x. So root 3 over 1. Okay, and root 3 over 1 is just going to be root 3. Those other ones are simplified completely. Notice the denominators are perfect. They're not radicals. So using the same triangle, same triangle, we're going to do the 30s now. So we'll look up at this angle here up at 30. Okay, so using 30, find the sine of 30, which is the opposite, which is down here, 1 over the hypotenuse, 2. So sine 30 is half. Now look at cos 30. So 30 is up at the top here. You need the adjacent over the hypotenuse, so root 3 over 2. And what do you notice about these? It's the exact same except they are switched. Okay? And then for tan 30, y over x, so it's going to be 1 over root 3. Pardon me, not y over x, because this triangle is not in the bow tie when we do it this way. So just use your standard rules. From 30, tangent would be op over hype. So op is 1, op over adjacent, 1 over root 3. Okay, and then that one we'd have to rationalize. Do you agree? So root 3 over root 3, and you get root 3 over 3. All right. I usually like to keep the tangent one left, leave it like this, because it's super easy to, but whatever. Okay, so now that you've seen these ratios and where they come from, these are the special triangles, so that's where they came from. Okay. What you can do, okay, we can't move on quite yet. We got to first do 0 and 90. Okay, so the special triangles they gave us are 30, 45, and 60. That's what the special triangles gave us. Now we go down into the 0 and the 90. 0 and the 90. Okay. I like to use a picture for this. And in fact, let's just stare at the unit circle. Stare at this, please, as we fill in this chart. Okay? And I'll just flip ahead for the video. We're staring at the unit circle. Okay, so right here is the eastern horizon. You agree? Imagine my little pointer there is the sun. Every day in the morning you wake up, the sun rises in the east, right? and it starts to set in the west, okay? So at the eastern horizon, and we're just going to keep the radius 1. That's what it's called, unit. That means radius is 1. It's the unit circle. It's the easiest circle we could ever work with, where all these hypotenuses, is that the plural for hypotenuse? Hypotenae. All these hypotenae have a distance of 1, okay? So that's what's nice about the unit circle. All the r values are 1. Now take a look at this point on the eastern horizon. It is 1, 0. And I mentioned to you that the sign goes with the y, and the cos goes with the x, okay? So when you go and fill out this chart, you're going to use the unit circle to help you. What's the sign of 0? Sign at 0 degrees, the eastern horizon, what was the y value? 0. And what was the x value? And the tangent value, you have to be careful with the tangent, because remember what the formula for tangent was? Y over x. So what's the y value divided by the x value? Is it 0 over 1? And that's okay, right? 0 groups of 1 is 0. Now let's go to the 90 case. What's the coordinate at the 90? 0, 1. So why isn't my, just give me a second to reload this. It's not showing up. Zero, 1. Okay, that's the coordinate at 90 degrees. So the sine will be the y coordinate, which is 1. And you go in your calculator, do sine 90 right now. Okay, and then try cos 90. What do you get? 0. So the cos will have to do with the x coordinate. Now I'll go and do tan 90. And then it says Cookie Monster has no friends. You remember from, you ever hear that? On Siri? Why, what's 0 divided by 0 on Siri? You ever asked Siri that? It explains why you can't divide by 0. Yeah. Cookie Monster's upset that he's got no cookies, and you're upset that you have no friends. So why is it undefined? Because for the tangent formula, it's the y divided by the x. And in this case, the x in the denominator is 0. So undefined if you're dividing by 0. Okay, what is happening with my notes? Sorry, I'm just going to log out and log back in to see if this fixes. I know, that's why I'm sick. Okay, so now we are on the next page. And they want you to memorize this chart, but I'm not going to tell you to memorize this chart. I'm going to tell you to memorize this unit circle. This is what you need to memorize. This is not going to be on your test. No. You have to memorize this. No. It's going to take hard work and dedication. Yes.
When I was doing my test last semester for this, there was like a question that was like directly related to like part of the unit.
Yeah. You have to know this. And I'll show you a way to memorize it, okay? Because what ends up happening is if you can do the first quadrant, what happens? It just mirrors, right? Okay. So let's spend some time on the back of this. Okay. So you're going to have, and what you're going to have to do is not cheat. Okay. So don't have the page with the unit circle open next to you. Okay. So you should have a circle in front of you and a quadrant, right? Okay, and then let me just get my circle in there. Okay, so let's do this. You're going to draw in with your bank card or whatever, or your ID card. Draw in the 45. Okay? And then you're going to go a little bit off that 45 in both directions. And you should get the 0, 30, 45, 60, and up at the top, 90. Okay? The 45 is in the middle, and then the 30 and the 60, they cut the quadrant into thirds. So what ends up happening is these three arms are kind of close to each other. Okay? They're not like equidistant apart. The 30, the 45, and the 60 seem to be a little bit more smushed towards the middle. And what I do is I memorize one of them. And before you start, on the top of this page, you can do this. This just says cos x and sin x. So it just tells you that, actually let's not use x because you're going to be using x for your coordinates. Use theta. So cos theta and sine theta, where theta is your reference angle. Okay? So the x-coordinate is going to be the cosine of the angle, and the y-coordinate is going to be the sine of the angle. Okay? Now, the 0 and the 90 are very easy to do. What's this coordinate over here? The x is 1, and the y is 0. It's just over 1 unit to the right. The y-coordinate is nothing. Now go up to the 90. What's that coordinate? Good. Now the x is 0, and the y is 1. So that's a good start. Now what is happening to the x-coordinates? What's happening to this x-coordinate? It starts at 1 and it ends up at 0. So is it going to be increasing or decreasing? Decreasing. And the reason for that is take a look at these x-coordinates. There's the x-coordinate for 30. Did it make it the whole way? So it's going to be less than 1. Right? I'll draw in the y-coordinate for 30. See that triangle it made? See this triangle? The blue is the x-coordinate for cosine 30, and the red is the y-coordinate for sine 30. Some of you might already know sine 30. Do you know sine 30? Try sine 30 in the calculator. Half. Sine 30 is the one that I always memorize. So the y-coordinate is the sine, so we put a half over here. And then it's easy to remember that the 1/2 and the root 3 over 2 go together. So I memorize sine 30, and it's even easy to double check on your calculator. Sine 30 is a half, and then it gives me this root 3 over 2 for free, because I know that they go together. Now up at the 60, you know that they just switch. So this is 1/2, and this is root 3 over 2. Up at the 60. And then the 45 is especially easy because they're the same. And if you just remember what they look like, you'll end up getting this quadrant for free. So you absolutely need to know this stuff. Question?
Sorry, where did you say you got the, in the first, the 3 to
Sine 30 is a half?
the 3 over 2?
Oh, look back in the special triangles.
Oh.
They go together. The 1/2 and the root 3 over 2 go together. Okay, now take a look at this red length. See this red length? If I drew this perfectly, this red length should be exactly halfway across. So it's kind of there, right? Okay. And then look at the cos of 60. What's the value for the cos of 60? Half. So that should be halfway on the x. Do you see how it's halfway? And the 45, these two have to be the same. And then it's just going to reflect over here. Okay, so let's just do the 30s. 30, 60, 90. What's the next one? 120. What's after 120? No. We'll just do the 30s. 150, and then you're down at 180. Okay? Now you just have to reflect. So this, whatever is happening at 60 is exactly what's going to happen over at 120. So you just need to write down the exact same ratios. 1 over 2, root 3 over 2. But which one goes negative? The x, right? And then for the 150, it's the same as the 30. It should be the same spot as the 30. It's reflected. It's a mirror image. All that changes is the x will change the sign. And what was the value in between 120 and 150?
45.
And how do you find that out? 45. What's after 45? Counting by 45s. 90. And then a 90 plus 45 is 135. So at the 135 degree, you just copy root 2 over 2 to root 2 over 2. And the x goes negative. And if you want, you shade in these radial arms some more. Mine are kind of being weird. They should meet the origin there. And then you do the same. Keep counting by 30s after 180. You get to 210. Count by 30 again, you get to 240. And then count by that again, you get to 270. And then you get to 300. And then you get to 330. And you follow the same process. Do the 45s. 180 plus 45 is 225. Plus 45, you get 270. Plus 45 again, you get 315. Okay, and then you just mirror image these. Okay, so when I was in your spot in Math 30, because I didn't do this in Math 20, but you absolutely need to know this for Math 20 now. They used to do it in Math 30 only. What I did is I would just sketch the first quadrant. And then I would use a mirror image. Okay, so if they were talking about 330, which one do I use? Well, what's the reference angle for 330? What's the reference angle for 330? It's 30. So I'll just use these. If they're talking about 315, which reference do I use? Just use the 45. If they're talking about 240, which one do I use? What's the reference for 240? 60, so I'll have to use these ones. So if you can just develop the first quadrant, you're going to be good. The other way to memorize this is when I was first learning this stuff and I just needed something to get it down and just get through the test because I didn't quite understand what I was doing. I memorized this. Well, 1, 0, and 0, 1's easy, in my opinion. But I memorized this. 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. That's what I memorized. And I just knew that these ones went together and these ones went together. Okay, back to the lesson. And let's try and do some questions. Okay, what is wrong with this? Okay, what page are we on here? Okay, at the bottom of 169. And now what I would do is I would just use my unit circle. Keep it out in front of me, the nice one, because right now you don't have it memorized. You have it out next to you, and you're like, okay, 210. Which one, where's 210? Find 210. Quadrant 3, I see it. Do you guys see it? Okay, it says sine of 210. So right away that's the y coordinate of that spot. So what is it? Negative 1/2. Done. That's it. If you have the unit circle memorized. Okay? Let's do it if you didn't have it memorized. 300. Okay, 300. What's the reference angle for 300? Well, 300 is down here somewhere. So the reference angle would be 60. Okay, so cos of 60 equals, and then I'd have to go to my calculator, hit cos 60, and it gives me 1/2. Okay, but I'm in the fourth quadrant, add sugar to coffee. So being positive on the right, this answer is okay. Okay, I'm good. But what if it wasn't 300? What if it was 330? And the reference angle was 30. What if it was 330? So write this down. Cos 330. So now the reference angle is 30 this time. So then you go cos 30 in your calculator. And what does it give you? 0.86 stuff? But you can't communicate 0.866, right? Because it's not a what? Not an exact value. So we need exact values. So you're going to have to memorize these exact values for the special triangles that we gave. Okay? These ones you have to know. And the 0 and the 90 are easy, stupid easy, right? It's just the quadrant sections. So you just have to memorize these. Okay? So that all together, it's like 3 coordinates. You guys can memorize 3 coordinates? 3 coordinates. And then you use mirror imaging? Right? Okay. So, tan 225. Where is 225? Bottom left? But what's the formula for tangent? Okay, so you have to take those 2 coordinates because this coordinate off the unit circle is your x and your y. Do you agree? So now you have to divide those. And what do you get? Root, oh my gosh. Yeah, and like, are you surprised that you got 1? Negative root 2 over 2 divided by negative root 2 over 2. Well, it's the same thing. The negatives cancel. You get 1. The reference angle for 225 is what? What's the reference angle? 45? And what's tan 45? 1. Okay, which quadrant are we in? 225 is down here. Is tangent positive in quadrant 3? So this positive 1 is good. So there's lots of ways to do this. My recommendation is you become a pro at the unit circle. It's just going to make your trig life a lot easier. If you don't have those ratios memorized, you're just basically forfeiting a certain amount of marks. You'll basically just get 0 because you don't have this sheet memorized. And you're going to need this quadrant 1 because it gives you the other ones for free. This quadrant 1 for Math 30 and Calculus. And if you plan on taking those, you have to know this. And your calculus teacher will be doing like the derivative of some trigonometric function, and then you have to draw back on this at the very end of the. You do all this work, calculus, this new stuff, then you get to the final parts of the solution, and then you have to know like what's tangent of pi over 3. You just have to know it, and you get to your final answer, whatever it is. Okay, so you got to know this unit circle. The faster you start, the better you'll be. Okay, let's take a look at this next one. Okay, where's the root 3 over 2 going to be? So, okay, this is me panicking in a test. Draw that first quadrant. Draw them in. I know it's not the first one, right? Because it's got the 3 over. Okay, so it's either, okay, is it this? I know that the sine of 30 is half. I know that one. And this is cos. Okay, so they want the x, cosine. Oh, so it's got to be 30. Do you guys agree? See how I did that? Just using the first quadrant? It doesn't say root 2 over 2, right? So it's not the 45. It's either going to be root 3 over 2, root 2 over 2, or 1 over 2. Those 3 ratios. It gave us this one. I have it memorized. So I know it's the x coordinate. Okay, so I know that the reference angle is 30. The reference angle is 30. But I use my CAS rule, add sugar to coffee. Where's cosine negative? On the left. So 180 minus 30, 180 plus 30. So what are the two answers here? 150 and 210. There's a lot of thinking going on, not a lot of math, like it's just a lot of thinking, like what position am I in, which ratio does this go with, use the first quadrant as a guideline, and then CAS rule and sign work. There's a lot going on in trig. And at first it might feel overwhelming, but okay, so in this next one wants tan theta undefined, so tan theta y over x, that's when the x is 0. So where on the unit circle is the x coordinate 0? 90, and there's one more in this domain, 270. Look at your unit circle, right? Where's the x coordinate 0? It's right at the origin, like you haven't gone anywhere left and you haven't gone anywhere right. Where's the sine 0? The y coordinate. That's when you haven't gone anywhere up or anywhere down. So that's at 0 and 180. Okay, so the 4 quadrants, 0, 90, 180, and 270. And then back to 360 is still 0. Memorize those spots. And those are easy. 1 to the right, 1 up, 1 to the left, and 1 down. Just make sure you get it properly. Okay, here we go. Some point on an arm. Complete the following questions. Draw the angle in standard position and mark the point P on the terminal arm. Okay, so give yourself a quadrant. Take a look at those points. You have a -3 for x. and you have a root 3 for y. So which quadrant are we in? You're left and up. So you're in quadrant 2. So you got to go left and up. So 1, 2, 3. And I know 3 is going to be smaller than root 3. So root 3, I have no idea where it is, but I know it's going to be smaller. Root 3 is definitely smaller than root 3. So the up, this root 3 is a smaller distance than this left 3. We have our x, we have our y, and we have the point P, which is right here, point P on the terminal arm in standard position. The bow tie, right? The bow tie, standard position. And we rotated starting, so this is the rotation angle. That's the rotation angle. Okay, state the values of x and y, and hence the value of tan theta. We know x, -3. We know y is root 3. So then we can go do tan theta. Y over x, which is root 3 over -3. A positive divided by a negative is just going to be the whole fraction's negative. Now it says state the reference angle and hence the rotation angle. So second function tangent of my ratio. You do not have to put in the negative. Remember that. What do you guys get? Inverse tan got 30. Root 3 divided by 3. 30. What? I'm getting 30 here. You guys get 30? Yeah, 30. Okay, remember, our calculator spits out the reference. Okay, so what's the rotation for quadrant 2 here? 180 minus the reference is the rotation. Okay? Good? Okay, what else do we got here? Okay, and then they teach the unit circle. Okay, so flipping ahead. Here's that unit circle. We talked about this. Okay, the stop notes. You could put this down at the bottom. Sine theta equals the y, cos theta equals the x, and tangent theta will be the y over the x, the sine theta over the cos theta. You can write it as a coordinate pair like this. And you guys are going to memorize that first quadrant, okay?
Yeah, please excuse this interruption. Just a quick reminder for all students and staff to please review the EAST activities and needs for today. As well, I know that this Friday we'll be doing our survey for students. We'll be giving you a survey as part of that what we call our EAST reward day. That will be happening at the end of October. That will be the day for you to select activities of your choice. So I know that's happening on Friday, but teachers, if you could just review the regular EAST activities for the week, please, at this time before we move into EAST. Thank you.
Okay, let's run through this quickly. Find 240 on the unit circle, down in the bottom left, and it wants the sine, so just the y coordinate, root 3 over 2. Everybody find 240. See that the y coordinate is negative root 3 over 2. Okay, now find 240. Where's 240? Saying it's just one spot. Oh, it's the same spot. Now you want the x coordinate, so negative 1/2. And now you have for tangent, it's the same spot. You want the y divided by the x. Remember, for tangent, it's y divided by x. So you got to take your answer for the sine and divide it by the answer for the cos. Okay, and the 2's will cancel, the negatives will cancel, and you're left with positive root 3. If you're not sure how those cancel, you need to multiply by the reciprocal, and you'll see that they'll cancel. No, I don't. Okay, use the unit circle to find the exact value of cos 135. Find 135. Second quadrant, they want the cos, so the x value, negative root 2 over 2. Go to 120, where's 120? Second quadrant. Okay, the coordinate for 120 is negative half and root 3 over 2. For the tangent, we have to divide the y and the x. So you're going to get root 3 over 2 divided by negative 1/2. The 2's cancel and you're left with negative root 3. If you're not sure how they cancel, multiply by the reciprocal. That's how you divide fractions. Sine 180 is really easy. It's just 0. The y coordinate of 180. And tan 270 is going to be here. So for 180, I'll give you the coordinate. And then for 270, the coordinate is 0, negative 1. So y over x, negative 1 over 0, so undefined. Okay, we have these 2 points on the unit circle. An object rotates counterclockwise from A to B. Through what angle has it rotated? Okay, so draw in a quadrant. Where's negative root 2 over 2? Up here, right? You recognize when it's the same? Okay, so there's point A. X is negative, y is positive. Now where's point B, where the x is 1/2? Where the x is 1/2. They're both negative, so down in quad 3, where the x is half. Reference angle 60, good, and this is down at 240, right? So this one's 240, and what was this one? 135. And then it says, what angle has it rotated? Okay, so just back it up from 240 to 135, and you'll get through what angle it rotated. They're just looking for the this rotation here. Okay, so what happens if you don't have your unit circle memorized? It's like pretty much hopeless. Next one, coordinates of the point on the unit circle that corresponds to a rotation of 148. Okay, so my bad. For the coordinate, right, x comma y, what's the x? Cos of the angle, and what's the y? Sine of the angle. You pump those into your calculator, and you will get to 4 decimal places. You get 0.848 and 0.5299, and the calculator will actually give you the first one negative if you check. The calculator will actually do it for you, because the calculator knows that 148 is in quad 2. The calculator knows that. So it'll go over to, it'll make x negative. And the last one, it's not even the last one. Why is this lesson so big? Okay, so this one's just giving you the coordinate, and they want you to find the angle. So you just have to go backwards. So second function, sine of the y. And second function, cos of the x. And it will give you the, oh, that's gibberish. I feel too rushed. This is gibberish. You just need to do one of them. It doesn't matter which one you do. But if you go with the 8829, you have to use cos. If you go with the 4695, you have to use sine. So I'll just pick the sine, second function sine, 0.4695. This is going to give you the reference angle. And then once you have that reference angle, then you can go ahead and use the cast rule. The first coordinate's negative and the second coordinate's positive. We'll have to pick this up from tomorrow. So I'm not going to give you guys a daily quiz tomorrow. Okay, so we're going to finish these notes off, and I'm going to give you time to work. Okay? There is homework. At least your homework is quite simple. Okay, 1 to 3. 1 to 3.